After 6 long winters, millionaire Raymond Crosby returned to the town he once promised he'd never step foot in again. But when he walked into a quiet cafe and saw a 5-year-old boy with his eyes standing beside the woman he left behind, his world shattered. A forgotten past, a hidden truth, and one question that changed everything. Could that child be his son? If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, like the video, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Now, let's jump into the story. The road leading into Greystone Valley curled like a ribbon through the snowy hills. As the black SUV rolled into town, the soft hum of the engine was the only sound breaking the quiet afternoon. Behind the wheel sat Raymond Crosby, sunglasses, shielding his eyes, though the winter sun wasn't strong enough to need them. His fingers tightened around the steering wheel, his jaw set with quiet tension. He hadn't been here in 6 years. And in all honesty, he had no plans to ever return. Until now. Raymond was a self-made millionaire. A man who had built his life in New York City, brick by brick, deal by deal. But this trip wasn't about business, at least not the kind anyone would see on paper. His Aunt Lucille, who had raised him after his parents passed, had recently died. Her final wish? That he spend 3 full months in Greystone to claim his inheritance. He didn't want the house. He didn't want the quiet. But he couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, he owed it to her. The town hadn't changed much. Same brick sidewalks, same bookstore with the crooked sign, same slow pace that once made him feel trapped. It was all still here, frozen in time. Raymond pulled up in front of Thatcher's Cafe, the local spot known for its hot chocolate and cinnamon buns. He didn't want to go in, but something pulled him toward it. Nostalgia, maybe, or curiosity. He stepped inside, the bell above the door ringing with a soft chime. The warm smell of baked goods hit him immediately, followed by a wave of memory. Laughter, soft conversations, a teenage version of himself sharing dreams across a booth with a girl who had green eyes and a shy smile. That girl's name was Claire Bennett. And there she was, sitting by the window. Her hair was a little shorter, now, but still fell in soft waves. She looked up from her coffee and froze. Her expression went from calm to pure shock in less than a second. Raymond couldn't move. His heart thudded hard in his chest. Next to her sat a young boy, no older than 5. He was talking excitedly, pointing at the chalkboard menu, clearly hoping for a treat. Claire smiled down at him, but it was strained, tight. Then her eyes flicked back to Raymond, and something in them changed. Fear. Panic. The boy turned toward Raymond, curious to see what had caught his mother's attention. And Raymond's heart stopped. The boy had his eyes. Not kind of. Not maybe. Exactly his eyes. Bright hazel with a golden ring around the pupil. Eyes he saw in the mirror every morning. He stumbled backward, knocking into a chair. Claire was already on her feet, grabbing the boy's hand. "Come on, Lucas," she said quickly. The boy, Lucas, pouted. "But I didn't pick my muffin yet." "We'll come back later," she said, guiding him toward the back door, her hand trembling. Raymond stood frozen. His mind raced with questions. He didn't even know how to form. Could it be? No. Surely not. She would have told him, wouldn't she? He took a step forward. "Claire." She didn't stop. "Claire!" He called louder. She glanced over her shoulder. Their eyes met one last time before she disappeared through the kitchen door. Gone. The cafe was quiet now. People looked at him, some whispering. But Raymond didn't care. He sank into the nearest chair, his legs suddenly weak. A waitress came over hesitantly. "Can I get you something, sir?" Raymond stared at the door Claire had just vanished through. "No," he said. I need a moment." Outside, the snow began to fall again, light and soft, like memories coming back to life. 6 years ago, he left this town thinking he had nothing left here. But now, there was a child who looked just like him, and everything he thought he knew about his past shattered in an instant. Raymond hadn't slept much. The old house on Elmsworth Lane creaked and groaned like it was whispering memories to him through the walls. His Aunt Lucille had lived there for over 40 years. The furniture still smelled faintly of her perfume. The teacups were still stacked in the cupboard just the way she liked them, but the place felt empty, heavy, like it knew he'd been gone too long. He sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee gone cold, staring at the spot where her garden journal used to sit. Lucille had loved her garden more than anything, well, almost anything. She had loved him too. She had also tried to tell him something, hadn't she? Raymond opened his phone and scrolled through his old voicemails. There were a few from Lucille, over the past 6 years. Short, polite, and growing sadder as time went on. One stood out. It was dated 4 years ago. Raymond, sweetheart. I wish you'd call me back. There's something important. Something you deserve to know. It's about Claire and, well, never mind. Just come home soon, okay? I miss you. He stared at the screen. Important? About Claire? His mind flashed back to the boy in the cafe. Lucas. With his eyes, that couldn't be coincidence. Later that morning, Raymond walked down the snowy main street toward the old Greystone Library. It was a small building made of red bricks and ivy vines. He didn't go there for books. He went to find Mrs. Dean, the town's retired librarian and his aunt's longtime friend. He found her feeding birds outside the back garden of the library, wrapped in a thick scarf and holding a small tin of sunflower seeds. Well, look who's come back from the big city, she said, smiling. You're taller than I remember, but still have that same scowl. Raymond chuckled despite himself. Good to see you, Mrs. Dean. What brings you here? Not many folks return to Greystone unless they're forced to, she said with a wink. I'm here. For Lucille. Her will. Mrs. Dean's smile faded. She missed you, you know. I know. I regret not coming sooner. They stood in silence for a moment, listening to the birds chirp. I saw Claire yesterday, Raymond said softly. Mrs. Dean turned, her eyes sharp now. Did you? She has a son. A pause. Lucas, she said. He nodded. He's mine, isn't he? Mrs. Dean's shoulders tensed. She looked down at the tin in her hands. That's not my story to tell, Raymond, but I will say this. Claire never wanted to keep him from you. Then why didn't she? You shut every door behind you when you left, Mrs. Dean interrupted gently. Changed your number, your email. Lucille tried to reach you. Claire too. But after a while she stopped trying. Raymond took a breath. What's he like? Lucas. A smile returned to Mrs. Dean's face. Bright, curious, loves airplanes, just like you did at that age. He's kind too. Gives away half his Halloween candy to the kids who didn't get much. Raymond looked away. His heart ached. All those years. Missed. That evening, back at Lucille's house, he found a small wooden box on the back porch, covered in dust and hidden behind an old gardening bench. Inside were small toys, art projects, and a bundle of birthday cards. Each one was signed Lucas. Each one was addressed to him. Tears burned behind his eyes. She had saved everything. The next day, something unexpected happened. As Raymond was sweeping snow off the front steps, a small voice called out from the gate. Hey! He turned and saw Lucas standing there, bundled in a red coat, cheeks pink from the cold. In his mittened hand was a tiny toy airplane. I think this is yours, Lucas said, holding it out. Raymond slowly stepped forward and took the toy. It was old, faded, but familiar. It had been his. He remembered crashing it in the backyard, years ago. Where did you find this? Raymond asked softly. In the garden. Mom said it probably belonged to someone special. Raymond knelt down. And what do you think? Lucas shrugged. I think maybe it flew back to where it belongs. For a moment, Raymond couldn't speak. Then Claire appeared, walking briskly toward them. Lucas, she called, her voice tight with concern. Time to go. Lucas gave a wave. Bye, mister. Bye. Raymond said, his voice cracking. Claire reached them, her eyes flicking between Raymond and the boy. I didn't tell him, she said quickly. I didn't ask. She nodded once, then turned and walked away, her hand on Lucas's shoulder. Raymond stood at the gate long after they were gone, holding the old toy in his hand. He had come home for a will, but he had found something else, a second chance. The next morning, Raymond stood at the window of his Aunt Lucille's house, watching the snow melt slowly along the wooden fence. He hadn't moved from that spot in nearly 20 minutes. His thoughts were stuck on one image, Lucas, standing at the gate, holding the old toy airplane like it was some kind of message from the past. He couldn't stop wondering what the boy knew and what Claire had been keeping locked away all this time. Raymond needed answers. And he knew where to find them. Claire didn't look surprised when she opened the door. She didn't slam it either. That surprised him. She simply said, "You have 5 minutes." Raymond nodded and stepped inside her home. It was small but warm, cozy. A wall covered in Lucas's artwork made his chest tighten. Crayon drawings of airplanes, rockets, and one picture of a boy holding hands with a tall man, whose face was only half drawn. He stared at it longer than he meant to. Claire cleared her throat. "I didn't come to fight," he said. I need to know the truth." She crossed her arms. "What do you think the truth is?" "That he's mine," Raymond replied, his voice low, "and that you never told me." "I tried," Claire said quickly. "I called, I emailed, I even wrote letters. But you disappeared." Raymond felt a wave of guilt hit him. She wasn't lying. He had disappeared. He wanted a clean break back. Then no contact, no memories, no distractions. It was how he survived. Still this? A child? "I never wanted to hurt you," Claire continued. "I was scared. I was angry. And when I finally found out I was pregnant, you were already gone." Raymond rubbed his face. "I'm sorry." Claire gave a sad smile. "That doesn't fix anything." "I know," he whispered. "But maybe I can start trying to fix something." There was a long pause. Then Claire looked away. "He doesn't know," she said. "He knows there's a father. Somewhere. I told him you lived far away and that sometimes life doesn't work out the way we expect, but I never wanted him to feel unwanted." Raymond felt a lump form in his throat. "I'd like to spend time with him," he said. "If you'll let me, I won't rush it. I just want to get to know him." Claire studied him. Her eyes were tired but kind. "I'll think about it." A few days later, Raymond waited nervously at Greystone's small aviation museum, a spot that was mostly old airplane parts and dusty models. But to Lucas, it was magic. When Claire brought him in, Lucas lit up like it was Christmas. Raymond knelt down with a smile. "Ready for takeoff, Captain?" Lucas grinned. "I brought my notebook. I'm designing my own plane." Over the next hour, they wandered the small museum. Raymond told stories about when he was a boy, how he dreamed of becoming a pilot before business took over his life. Lucas listened, wide-eyed, hanging on to every word. "Did you ever fly one?" Lucas asked. "Only paper ones." Raymond laughed. Lucas thought for a second. "Then maybe we can learn together." Those 5 words nearly broke Raymond's heart. In the best way. That evening, Claire called. "He hasn't stopped talking about you," she said softly. Raymond smiled through the phone. "Is that good or bad?" Claire laughed, the first real laugh he'd heard from her in years. "It's a start." She hesitated, then added, "He wants you to come to his class reading next week. He's reading his story about flying. I'll be there," Raymond promised. A week passed, and true to his word, Raymond sat in the back of the classroom as Lucas stood in front of the class with his handwritten story. "Once there was a boy who wanted to fly," Lucas began, "but he didn't want to fly alone. He wanted someone who would stay." Raymond blinked back tears. Claire, seated next to him, glanced sideways. Her hand brushed his for just a moment before she pulled away. That night, Raymond made a decision. He opened his laptop and typed an email to his New York office. I won't be returning to the city anytime soon. Handle what you must without me. I have somewhere more important to be." He hit send, then closed the laptop. Raymond stood once again by the garden gate, watching the snow fall gently across the flowers Lucille once planted. He finally understood. Sometimes the things we leave behind are the very things we're meant to return to. And for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel lost. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon in Greystone Valley, the kind of day where time seemed to slow down. The sky was clear, the wind gentle, and the trees along Maple Lane swayed softly like they were listening to a calm song only they could hear. Raymond Crosby stood in the bleachers of the town's little baseball field, hands in his coat pockets. But this time he wasn't dressed in a sharp suit or hiding behind sunglasses. He wore a plain blue hoodie and sneakers. Nothing fancy. Just a dad, here to watch a game. Below him on the field was Lucas, number 7 on his jersey, warming up as the starting pitcher for his team. Raymond could barely believe it had only been a few weeks since that first encounter at the cafe. So much had changed. And yet, standing here now, it all felt natural, like this had been waiting to happen all along. From the corner of his eye, he saw Claire approaching. She sat next to him without a word. They watched together as Lucas adjusted his glove and waved to a friend. "He takes it seriously," Raymond said, smiling. Claire nodded. "He gets that from you." Raymond's smile faded slightly. "I'm sorry I missed so much." Claire looked at him, her expression soft. "You're here now." Just as the first pitch was thrown, a voice called out behind them. "Raymond," he turned and saw Madeline, his former fiancée from New York. She wore a long beige coat, high-heeled boots, and an expression somewhere between disbelief and heartbreak. Claire's posture stiffened. Raymond stood up slowly. "Madeline, what are you doing here?" "I came to talk," she said. "You haven't answered my messages, my calls. You vanished." "I needed time," he said gently. "And space." She looked past him and caught sight of Lucas on the field. Her lips parted and a deep silence fell between them. "Is that—" "Yes," Raymond said. "His name is Lucas. He's my son." Madeline stared, trying to make sense of everything. Then she nodded once, tightly. "So you've chosen this life, then?" Raymond looked at Claire, who was now watching quietly, and then back at the field where Lucas had just struck out a batter. "I didn't choose a life," he said softly. "I chose my family." Madeline's eyes brimmed with tears, but she didn't argue. "I hope it's worth everything you're giving up." "I've already gained more than I ever imagined." Without another word, Madeline turned and walked away, her heels clicking against the pavement. Raymond exhaled, his heart beating fast. Claire rose and stood beside him. "That was brave," she said. "No," Raymond replied, watching Lucas throw another pitch. "This is brave." Later, that evening, as the sun began to set, Raymond walked Claire and Lucas home. The boy skipped ahead, tossing a baseball into the air and catching it with ease. "Lucas seems happy," Raymond said. Claire nodded. "He is. You've brought something new into his life, something he always wanted even if he didn't know how to ask for it." Raymond hesitated. "And you?" Claire looked down, then met his eyes. "I'm still learning how to let go of the past, but I see the man you are now. And maybe there's still more story to write." They stopped in front of her house. Lucas had already run up the porch steps. "I want to build him something," Raymond said suddenly. Claire raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" "A treehouse," he replied. "There's a perfect tree in the yard. I used to dream about building one when I was his age. Maybe this time I can actually finish it." Claire smiled. "Then start tomorrow." A week later, the treehouse was halfway built. It wasn't perfect. Some of the boards were crooked, and Raymond had hit his thumb more times than he could count. But Lucas loved it. Every day after school, they worked on it together. Claire brought them lemonade and watched from the back steps. "This is the best part of my day," Lucas said one afternoon, looking up at his dad from a ladder. Even better than baseball. Raymond's heart nearly burst. Mine too, buddy, he said. Mine too. One morning, as they were finishing the final touches on the treehouse, Claire came outside holding something behind her back. I found something, she said. She handed Raymond a small envelope. Inside was a note from Lucille, written in her familiar handwriting. Dear Raymond, if you're reading this, then you've found your way back. I always knew you would. This town has its roots deep in your heart, whether you admit it or not. And family? That's the bridge that carries us home. Don't be afraid to rebuild. Love isn't just something we remember. It's something we keep choosing day after day. Love always, Aunt Lucille. Raymond's eyes welled with tears. He folded the note and tucked it carefully into his coat pocket. I miss her, he whispered. She'd be proud of you, Claire said. He took her hand gently. I'm proud of us. Lucas waved from the treehouse window. Are you two coming up or what? They laughed and climbed the ladder together. From the top of the treehouse they could see all of Greystone Valley, rooftops, chimneys, and winding roads. And for the first time in a long, long while, everything felt exactly where it was meant to be.